I'm Karen McMullen here with Natalie Kent for another Wake Up Call, a series that we're doing sharing channeled messages for starseeds and for golden warriors, people that are here to bring light into our bodies and into the earth at this time of chaos, really, on planet Earth. And more chaos on the way. So today we're going to focus on the idea of invasive energies, infiltrators that are really aiming to take us over and inhibit us from being full force creators in our power, and how to identify this, how to work with it, how to be smart, how to really be in your power. And so both Natalie and I have received messages about this, and Natalie more than I. I'm really curious to hear what she has to say. So that's my intro. Natalie, have anything you want to add to the intro?
Yes, well, I'd like to add that this is kind of a caveat, that when we're talking about infiltrators and dark energies, you know, where the purpose is to open our awareness, not to focus our awareness on this. We don't need to give our energy and invest our energy into these beings who have an agenda, so to speak, but we need to be aware of them. So it's a fine line of having our eyes open and not being blind or naive to this stuff, but also not fueling it. So
fear, yeah, absolutely. That's a really important message.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think some people are really fueling this with fear and bringing all their awareness and creative power to, conspiracy theories and all of the ways that we are being attempted to be taken over, but that actually just diverts our creative power and accomplishes the same end.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you for sharing that. So I'll start by sharing what I've received recently. So I had an amazing experience. I was at a retreat on the beach, and while I was there, my phone stopped working properly, and so it became a really pain in the butt to try to work it. And then my computer started going blank every time I would turn it on. It would just turn into a black screen and shut down. And I was thinking, oh damn, this is really bad, because I don't really have the money to buy a new computer right now. And meanwhile, I was staying in this little cabin right on this rocky outcropping in this remote area alone. So I really was kind of removed, and I was right in nature, and I was channeling every morning, and I got the message from the Council of Light, who are highly evolved beings that I'm channeling, that it's okay, your computer's going to work when you go home in a week. Just, we want you to be without technology right now. And then one of the messages that I channeled about technology, I don't think it'll be a surprise to anyone, but I hope I can convey how strong this message was and how deeply disturbing and important it seemed to me as I was receiving it, which was basically that technology right now is being used to take us over. It's the primary tool that is being used to infiltrate our consciousness. And the aim is, instead of us being full force creators, using our creative power in the way that we're meant to, that we become consumers, and we become controlled consumers, that we are then basically brainwashed and we're limp, we're useless, or we are then able to become agents of the controlling forces. So, and I do sense that, you know, how this shows up is mostly in a commercial way, you know, having a commercial agenda, but behind the commercial agenda are other forces at play. You could say extraterrestrial. I wasn't clear about that, but what was clear was, and it was a very interesting message, is controllers have an agenda and they use technology in a way that makes it addictive. So anytime you're using any kind of technology and you have this feeling like, I don't want to stop or I can't stop, Facebook, any social media, porn, Netflix, things that are addictive, those, anything where you feel like you don't want to stop, you can't stop, you are being taken over. That is what is happening. The reason why you can't stop is because you're actively being dominated and taken over. Your creative force as an individual is being redirected. And in contrast, there's many technologies where you can use the technology, you don't feel like you're being taken over. For example, if I'm writing my book and I'm in a Word document, I never have the sense of like, oh, this Word document is making me want to stay on the computer for longer than I want to be. It's like, I can't wait till I finish this work because I don't want to be on the computer. Or even email. I mean, I never feel addicted to email. I'm just using email and then I'm out. Or right now we're using Zoom, you know, and Zoom to me doesn't feel addictive. I'm just using it as a tool and then I'm done. So that's a contrast. That's healthy technology, is that that's not part of the message. I never said the word healthy technology, but that's using technology as a tool versus the sense of being taken over. So one of the things they talked about is that there are 4 phases of creation. There's create, sustain, destroy, and void. So there are also archetypes. So if some of us tend to be more creative, like we come up with ideas, we are innovators, the artists, the people that you typically think of as creative, they're in the create archetype of creation. And then there's the sustainers, who are the people that are watering the gardens. They're the ones that are mending the hole in your pant, or doing the day in, day out work, watering, mending, tending, feeding, sustaining life. They are still creators. They're sustaining creators. Then there's the destroyers. Destroyers, I'm a destroying archetype in creation primarily. They are able to see what is unhealthy in something. They can easily pinpoint, like, this isn't right. They're critical thinkers. They can just say, they can see someone and say, oh, this is off, and then pinpoint it, speak to it directly. This is what we need to change. This is where we're going. Like, and that dismantles unhealthy systems. So they're able to dismantle and bring to ruin things that aren't good or healthy. And then after that, there's a void period of, where things are just kind of fallow. And then those void people that are the void creators, they are really just in a place of beingness. They're actually holding just a frequency of existing on this planet and well-being and total acceptance of what is. They don't have this urgency to do anything. They're just existing. And so of those types, creators are creating because they have no agenda. They're just creative. So controllers that want to take our life force and use it for their agenda need creators in order to have a facade of a pure agenda. So they use creators and creativity to masquerade as a creator instead of just being a controller, because no one likes being overtly controlled. They can tell when there's an agenda. So we have to hide the agenda by using a creator. And creators are vulnerable to being used by controllers because creators tend to be underfunded. So a controller can come along and say, hey, I'm going to offer you fame, I'm going to offer you fortune, I'm going to pay you well, and let's collaborate, or let's collaborate, and then we'll bring your creations out into the world. So creators are vulnerable to with their ego to being manipulated if they have any kind of vulnerability around their integrity to in terms of money and security or fame. So that's something to watch for. And then sustaining creators are vulnerable because they're very easily turned into consumers. They can just be mindlessly consuming. And then they're no longer in their full force as creators. And then there's the destroyers. And when destroyers are controlled, they become the absolute worst form of controller that exists, because they use their ability to dismantle systems to dismantle the good systems.
Yeah, right.
Like, I think Trump is an example of that, because he's actually using his power of pinpointing things to dismantle what is good and to destroy it. And in the wreckage of that, there's fertile soil to build new structures that are completely corrupt in their agenda.
Wow, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Whoa. Mm-hmm.
And then the void creators are the least likely to be taken over, because they're probably not even on social media.
Yeah.
They're just existing. They're not using technology. But one of the main ways that technology is being used to infiltrate us is, little by little, we are becoming so normalized to the amount of use of technology that we start to feel like we can't go a day without looking at our phones, or we actually need to use social media for our well-being. And we have these beliefs that if we don't use these things, we're not going to be okay and we're not going to survive. And those mindsets are gradually becoming so normalized that we can then justify these insane amounts of time we're spending on the computer, on the phone, and these addictive behaviors. And so the main thing we need is to disengage and just have behaviors. Like if you feel that part of your business is to be promoting on social media, set a timer, put your content in, and then get out within 5 minutes. Get in, get out. And turn off your Wi-Fi at night. Part of the frequencies are also harmful. So turn off your Wi-Fi, turn off your phones, turn off your computer. Don't leave them on. And you just disengage a lot more. Those are the main messages I got.
And they are very key messages right now. Like, there's, to me, hearing you say this is, I mean, we can talk about energies and infiltrators and dark forces, whatever, but that's all in the non-physical. The way they're doing it physically is through these devices. And that's something that can be grasped. And the number of parents I speak to who have kids in their 20s who are still living at home and don't get off their computers. They live in a virtual reality. They're living on video games.
Video games is another big one, yeah.
Yeah, that's massive, because it's a whole other world that's already created for you. At least if you go on social media, you kind of, you know, you're creating your own world. In these virtual games, it's all, you're stepping into someone else's reality the way they've orchestrated it. And so these kids in their 20s don't have jobs half the time, or some of them have jobs and then spend all night on their computers playing games. What is actually happening to these people?
Yeah, and they're so disconnected from their individuality and their life force and their creative force. Who even knows what they would be used for if they were in contact with their purpose and with what their creative life force is meant to be used for.
And you said it perfectly about when you become addicted to the technology and you can't step away, that is a sign that you are leaving your body. And when you leave your body, something else will come in and say, thanks very much.
Yes, exactly.
It's a gradual takeover. So the more time that is spent in that numb state, where you are not in charge, you are not in command of your body, something else will go, oh, cool, I'll move in. And it happens surreptitiously over time. This is not like, you know, the movies you see, Exorcist and all that kind of stuff, like entities coming in, there's a personality change overnight. This is a gradual takeover process.
And one of the things I read is there comes a point, or I read from what I wrote, is there's a point of no return. And where you are so involved that you no longer even conceive of the life before. And what really disturbed me was I was quite close to that point. And so I don't think it really takes that much. I think that the takeover point is less than what we think. And, you know, I used to be an outdoor guide, so I would spend weeks on end in the middle of nowhere in the wilderness. And these days I realized, wow, I feel very disconnected from that person, that woman who was so wild and so connected with nature. And so that was a wake-up call too, of realizing, wow, you know, I've forgotten that essence. And yeah, I don't want to be taken over. I don't want my life force to be used for someone else's agenda.
So that the control agenda, or the, you know, that is all these dark forces that aim to control and want to create a slave race here on earth via technology as the primary tool of takeover. That's what they want, is they want humans to go, oh, okay, it's too hard to live here and have my own life and to create, and there's too much going, you know, there's too much resistance in the world, or too many challenges, or it's just too hard. That's what they want. That's what they want us to do, is to just roll over.
Yeah.
And so this is why we speak of the, you know, you mentioned golden warriors at the start of the call. What that actually means is that as we move to the fifth dimensional consciousness, which is unity consciousness, where we are all one, where we are not about control anymore, that we realize that we need each other to rise together, that we are all connected. As we move into that energy, that is the gold energy, the gold frequency in the body. So gold is created from the merging, the alchemizing of light and dark, which is also why we have to expose the dark, which is why we're having this conversation. And gold energy in the body means that the more you cultivate that in your body, you are owning your body. You are owning your truth in this body. And so it requires you to see the truth, the light, and see the truth of the dark in yourself and around you, and what is really going on in this world behind the faces. You know, who is the person staring at you, who's like with you in person or online? Is that really someone who is true to who they're presenting as?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it another energy controlling them? These beings are very, very clever. So they know how to mimic being human and being loving and being of the light and all these appealing qualities. Like their intelligence is beyond what we can kind of imagine to mimic these qualities of being human. So how the hell do we know someone is a light being and is in their integrity, in the gold energy? You see it in the body, you see it radiate out from the core. Whereas these masquerading energies, you see, sometimes they can appear as light, but they're actually light around the edges. There's no light radiating from their core because they can't mimic that.
Mm-hmm.
So the gold energy up the center of the body, which is what we talk about, the channel between the sacral and the heart, activating that and keeping that as your own sovereign energy means that you can't be taken over, but it means that you have to be in your body, and it means
Mm-hmm.
you can't just give up your mind to these technologies.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I think even just simple things like, are you breathing?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel your body? And, spending hours, the primary, one of the chapters that I channeled about embodiment is all of us need to consider ourselves as body workers, as our primary career is I maintain my body. I am spending my time in embodying myself and caring for my body. And that's the whole point of everything. And the more that we're aware in our bodies, tending to our bodies, it's not possible to take you over. So even, some of the experiences I've been having recently with, as things get more thin in the dimensions and I'm able to perceive other dimensions more easily and have had some scary experiences where I have felt dark energies wanting to take me over. Now I know that when I focus on my breath and my body, it's not possible for me to be taken over.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really it's that simple. It's not,
yeah,
it's really kind of easy. So
yeah,
it's not hard to do that if you have awareness.
Mm-hmm. And you have to have desire too. And that's what people have switched off. And that's what the technologies are designed to switch off our awareness of desire. Because if we have desire, we have creation energy.
Mm-hmm.
And we acknowledge we are the creators, not these devices that want to create us. So
I've even noticed with music, like I'm on Spotify and I love finding new music, but the music that Spotify is always choosing for me is like these kind of watered down voices that are like, they just the music these days sounds to me so subdued. And I'm just, where are the pure tones? Where is the clear, even if it's rock or something, it's just like, where is the full force creative energy of these artists?
Yeah, where's the body behind the words and the melody?
And I don't like this music.
Yeah.
But I think that people are liking this music because their own creative power is just being diluted.
So this is where the channel in the body between the sacral and the top and lower halves basically of the body, they need to be connected, and desire originates in the lower part of the body. But these technologies and the way our world is designed is to activate the upper half of the body. And even like spiritual bypassing is based on this, all heart, but no fire. no desire behind it. It's not, that love isn't connected to anything. It's just, you know, the heart floating around with no basis, no grounding. So it's so easy to fall into this in so many different ways, because humans on this planet have typically been in split form, which means in separated form, separated from one another, separated from their own bodies. So we have to make that connection consciously in the body between the top and lower halves. And so becoming aware of your desire in the lower part of your body, and I'm not talking sex here, I'm talking like just pure energy to create something. Could be a baby, that's fine, but that's only one example. You know, what's the desire in your body, and is it rising into the heart to fill the heart with fire so that you create it and you express it and you radiate it? So is your heart actually connected to the ground? You know, that's a huge part of this. And if we can do that, you're right, and we can do it through breath, consciously working that channel, that we can't be taken over. We are sovereign beings in that state. And that's where we're moving to in 5D, is living with the channel active at all times is what 5D is. We'd already be there if it was on at all times.
Right. Nat, will you share that story with us about the person that you, I think it was your friend, and you saw that their head and crown was completely gone, like taken over?
So, and this is something I've seen a lot since then, where you can actually have someone who is only partially in their bodies, and you can, if you are able to see energy and you scan their energy, you'll see dark and light. You'll see where the light is coming from, and the light is their essence, it's their presence. And so in this case, I saw this beautiful light coming from her heart, which was still strong, but her third eye and her crown were dark and in fact completely gone, taken over. So she was in the takeover process. And I did try and intervene at that point, but she was too far gone, so to speak. If you can manage to intervene at that point and they have some desire to come back to themselves and they can see what's happening, then, you know, that can be a very good sign that they can recover. But when that's gone and they can no longer see the truth from here, and especially when the crown connection is cut, they've lost that divine connection to their soul. They've lost the soul connection. So
hold on,
like
I need to.
Yeah.
Oh, you can keep talking. I just have to answer the door.
Yeah, that was in the process of being taken over. So the heart is still there and this is gone. It can totally mean that they're in the process of takeover. And there's other ways of seeing this in motion as well. And it's very disconcerting, I must say, when this happens.
It sounds really disturbing. I would hate to see that.
When it's someone that you love and care for, and there's not much you can do. And it's even hard for me to talk about, actually, because this was a dear friend of mine.
And so how did that manifest in your friend's actual behavior, like in what she's doing or not doing?
Good question. What I started to observe is, looking back from that point, is that her life had become like a loop. Nothing was really making progress, or she wasn't really getting anywhere. And often the way she would speak wasn't embodied. So when she'd explain things to people, they couldn't get it, they couldn't understand. And so it wasn't anchored, those words and her expression wasn't anchored in the body enough. So yeah, I think they were the main two things. The looping is a big one though. It's like they become on script.
So it sounds like she wasn't able to bring anything of substance into the world.
Yeah, her own light was slowly diminishing. So it wasn't that, there was no you didn't feel that creative force behind it. It was just kind of words that didn't land. And and she was creating things, but it was just same. So yeah, and I really, this is a really sensitive topic because I know people who have loved ones in their lives, even their kids, who are in the process of takeover.
And did this woman spend a lot of time on technology?
No, there was an intervention along her path that I believe where the seed of the takeover started. So this often happens in cults and in spiritual groups where, particularly in countries like India, where you can visit these places and come back with your crown cut off.
Whoa.
And not even realize, but you've actually unplugged from your soul and plugged into some other group consciousness or some other entity that is then controlling you. And then it becomes a slow process of takeover of your entire body, the entire vessel.
And that's what happened to her?
I believe that's what happened, yeah. And I've seen situations.
So was she involved in some kind of spiritual community or something?
No, not a community. It was a place that she visited. Yeah, so the time in that place, and there are certain places in the world that are hotspots for energies to come in, portals, if you like. And if you are not grounded in these places, it's like a free-for-all. So there are light energies that come through into these portals, but also darker energies with an agenda. So they can literally come in and do a sweep. Oh, and it is kind of like that. The way I see it energetically is they do a sweep across the surface of the Earth's energy field, and they go, okay, what's up for grabs? If you're not anchored, if your feet aren't anchored into the ground here, you're up for grabs. That's what technology does so beautifully, is it removes us from nature and one another. They are the two things that I noticed were missing, probably the primary thing that was missing in her life was she was very isolated. She didn't have a tribe. And that makes you instantly vulnerable to these energies.
That makes me give you chills.
Yeah. So we need to have, she didn't have a partner and didn't have a tribe, and lived in a city, so disconnected from nature as well. So it's fascinating the way when I've received the channelings and certain images that I'm shown, one of the images when I asked about the takeover, or actually asked about the gold energy and where the gold energy is strongest around the globe. And I was shown this big sweep of the globe, and I saw hot spots of gold, like where the gold energy is concentrated. And all of these places were not cities, they were remote places. So basically where there's less people and less technology, there is more gold. So people are more connected to the earth. So where they're living off the land, you're on a daily basis, cultivating more gold because you're interacting with nature and you're creating from nature. So it's one thing to say get off technology, but then the counter to that is actually getting your hands in the soil, feet on the ground, bare feet on the ground, and preferably with others doing the same. And that is basically your immunity ultimately to all of this. This doesn't have to be an issue, what we're talking about today, this infiltrator stuff. Like, we need to know about it, but it doesn't have to be a feature in our lives if we lived this way. If we didn't live in cities and we didn't need laptops and we lived in tribe and we lived off the land, not supermarkets, it would just be a very sort of something happening in the background that we need to just be aware of. And that's where, of course, we're going with True Ecosystem and wanting to learn how to live in tribe off the land and create that reality. So yeah, that's our antidote.
Yeah, that makes sense. One of the chapters that I received was about every day spending some time communicating with the earth energy, receiving the earth's energy, giving to the earth. and just having this interaction where you're communicating, and you can ask the earth for guidance messages, and the earth will tell you where she wants you to be. And the earth is aware of you. She's alive, and she wants you to be doing your thing in support of her. And if you are devoting your energy and your life force to being of service to the earth, you are going to be taken care of, and that earth will show you where to go. So yeah, communicating with the earth. And then something else you said made me think of another thing. I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Bottom line, we've reached it. That's the bottom line. Get into nature and earth yourself through people, the people that you're resonating with and who are on the similar path and want the same things. They're your soul family. Not getting too hooked up into blood family if you don't resonate, if you're not going in the same direction. A lot of energy can be going into that, but that's really age of Pisces. That's the past. Age of Aquarius is about finding your soul family, moving away from blood family in the way that we've experienced it. So yeah, this is it. Beautiful note to end on, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm so curious to know more about some of the things you've received, but I think maybe that's good for today.
Yeah, we need to do.
Yeah, we can talk about it more on another one. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Juicy stuff.
Yeah,
we'll see everyone next time. Hopefully you'll join us for the next wake up call.
yeah.
Bye for now.